Buenos días, es el miércoles, son las 12. Hello everyone, it is Wednesday and it's 12 o'clock, so it's time for our second community Spanish of this week, number 2 of 3, broadcasting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. We also have our adult French lessons going on every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8:30, and then our 2 kids programs happening every Monday through Wednesday for kids French and Monday through Thursday for kids Spanish. French is in the morning at 10 and Spanish in the afternoon at 3:30. So lots going on. We also have our Instagram live videos going on as well. So there are some even more content in French and Portuguese on our Instagram. So you're welcome to check that out in addition to the lessons here live on Facebook. And just as we are starting this video, I wanted to do a quick reminder that of a couple of things. One of them is that our Facebook Live page is all updated on our website. So you're welcome to check out the library there of all the videos that we've made over these past months, in addition to the extra worksheets that we've made to go along with those videos. So if you want to get a little extra practice to go to kind of supplement and support the video, if you want to pass on to anyone these worksheets, you're totally welcome to do that and kind of introduce them to our Facebook Live sessions. Again, it's free, open to the public, so we're welcome anyone who wants to join. So just running of that resource there on our website. And another quick reminder that our September schedule is now posted. So if you want to go to our website, rolalanguages.com, you can see all of the schedules of classes we have coming up in September for our different languages. There's levels, there's schedules, there's prices, all that information is up there on the website. So feel free to check it out. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us either through the website or here on Facebook, or there's a myriad of ways. So get in touch with us whatever way is best for you if you need any help or have any questions about the upcoming classes. So with that said, let's get into the content for today's video. So I actually made a video about the preterite in general. This is our topic for today, is kind of the past tense, or one of the past tenses in Spanish. And I actually made a video about this earlier in April, kind of one of my first few videos as we started these Facebook live series. That kind of was an overview of the preterite in general. But now I want to kind of circle back and go over some things more specifically and get more practice in, because the preterite is a big topic, something that many students work on, and they need a lot of time to absorb. So I think it certainly couldn't hurt to go back and give a little bit of review and do a bit more kind of in-depth, in addition to the first video that I made a few months ago now. So for today, we're going to focus on the AR verbs in the preterite. And then I'm going to do separate videos to talk about ER and IR, and then hopefully some irregular verbs as well, because there are unfortunately several irregulars in the preterites, so we have to look at them on their own and memorize them. So, but today we're going to start with regular AR verbs. So let's get into it. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see in front of me. So first, just a quick review of what is preterite and what do we use it for. So again, as I mentioned, this is past tense in Spanish, and just like English, there are multiple different past tenses depending on what you're trying to describe. In Spanish, the preterite, or el pretérito, refers specifically to the things that we can define the time in the past that they occurred. So like we know when they began, we know when they ended, we know how long it took. There's a certain amount of definition. That's the kind of key point of the preterite. And then there are other tenses we would use if there's something that's undefined or we don't know, or something that kind of took place over multiple time periods. So in those cases, we would not use the preterite. So I just want to highlight that kind of context before we get into the conjugation. So that's how we're using the preterite in general. So again, this is something where we know the time. For example, we have this as a specific moment in the past. So el año pasado llegó una chica nueva a clase. So last year, again, we're defining, it was last year, so we know when it happened. A new girl arrived to class. So again, it's about that knowing the time period. That's key for the pretérito. Or even if it was something that we did that was done multiple times, but if we can define that time, or we can like how many times or what time period, then preterite can still work. So for example, te llamé 7 veces. I called you 7 times. So again, this is something that happened multiple times, but we can identify exactly how many. So therefore, we can use the preterite. So kind of similar theme for the next one. So again, if we can define the amount of time that something took place, a duration, then also works for the preterite. So por ejemplo, trabajaste por 8 horas seguidas. You worked for 8 hours straight. So again, because we're saying 8 hours, know the time period. We know the duration. So it's defined. Okay, and then the last one It's just, if it's something that just seems obvious based on the context that it's something we only did one time, then it's clear that we can use the predicate. So for example, we have this one, almorzamos en McDonald's, we had lunch at McDonald's. Again, we're implying like it was today or one like this last weekend, whatever the context was, we can understand that it was a one-time incident, and therefore pretérito is the tense we should use. So that's kind of the context we're coming from when we talk about the pretérito. Now for the conjugation, which is going to be most of the focus of today's mini lesson, is to focus on these AR verbs. So again, this is our first group. As we hopefully all know by at this point, if you've seen any of the previous videos, there are 3 different groups of verbs in Spanish. There are verbs that end with AR, verbs that end with ER, and verbs that end with IR. So every verb in Spanish is going to have one of these 3 endings. So it's a little bit kind of simple in that sense. So usually what we're doing is we have to look at that set of that ending, and then there's going to be a certain and the verb with the infinitive ending, excuse me. So then we're going to look at that, and from that we can know what set of endings go with verbs that are all in that group. So as we saw in present tense, we saw in present progressive, and other kind of videos I've done on verbs, that we have a kind of one set of endings that go with all the verbs that end in AR, and that way we can kind of just apply it like a formula. So anytime you have another AR verb, even if you don't know the verb, it doesn't matter. You can just apply the same endings that go with that group, and you're good to go. Now, of course, there are some exceptions, but we're just going to be focusing our attention on regular ones for right now. So to go over quickly these conjugations and start learning them, and then of course we're going to practice. So if it's the first person singular or the yo or I form, we're going to end it with a. So you can see this one it's an e with an accent. So that's going to be the ending that we will notice for all of the ones that are for the yo form. They're again end with a. Okay. Then if it's for tú or the second person singular, so tú is you in Spanish, they're going to be ending with aste, Okay, so that's the ending we should look at for tú. Now, if it's él, ella, or usted, he, she, or you in a formal, polite way, it ends with o, as in o with an accent. And that emphasis when you have these words, letters with accent, is really important, because if you say it the kind of just the letter without the accent, that's most likely going to be a different conjugation, and you don't want to cause confusion for the person who's listening to understand what you mean. So if you just say, for example, with yo, and you just say with a, with regular, without the strength of the accent, it will be a different conjugation, so it might cause confusion. And same thing with this one we just talked about with el, ella, usted. If you just pronounce it like o, normal o, without the accent, you might cause confusion because you'll be making a different conjugation for another person or another tense. So make sure when you're pronouncing that you are reading those with accents and reading them faithfully, so you can pronounce it correctly and put that extra oomph on those letters with the accent. Now for the first person plural, or the nosotros or nosotras, the we, we're going to use the ending amos. So this one is a little bit interesting because this is actually the same as the present. So this one is kind of a little bit of a unique thing, that both the present and the preterite endings are the same for nosotros. So you might need some other context clues to help you out to know if this was a present action or a past action. For the second person plural, or the vosotros, which is the you all form, they only use in Spain, we use the astéis ending, astéis. And for the last one, the ellos, ellas, or ustedes, so the they for a mixed gender group or an all male group, we use ellos. For an all female group, we use ellas. And ustedes is the word that we use for you all in all of the countries outside of Spain. We're going to use the ending aron, okay? So that kind of wraps up our endings. So let's repeat these together, one after the other, again, just to start the process of us internalizing and remembering, as I say, in pretty much every video. The more you repeat, the more you're going to remember. So I know it seems a little bit mindless, but I promise it has a function. So vamos a repetir. So we're going to repeat these together. So we have first a, aste, o, amos, astéis, aron. Muy bien. And we can see an example in context here. So if we look at the example just below our little chart, we have with the example verb hablar, which is a great standard AR verb, hablar, to speak. So we're going to do what we usually do when we go to conjugate something. So we take the infinitive of hablar, and we're going to first take off the ending. So again, we had hablar, and we're going to take off the ending. And then we're going to use that as our stem and add the endings we just learned. So for yo, it becomes hablé. Hablé. So please repeat that one with me. Hablé. And now just to make sure you can hear the difference, if there's no accent on that E, I will pronounce it hable. So we have hable and hablé. I know it's a little bit subtle, but hopefully you can hear the difference. And again, it's really important when you're speaking that you pronounce it correctly, because hable is a totally different conjugation. So you might cause some confusion if the listener hears you say hable when you meant to say hablé. So again, make sure that that accented letter is strong. For tú, it's hablaste. Hablaste. For él, ella, usted, it's habló. Habló. This is the same one as we talked about with the yo form. This one we have to make sure that O is strong, because if you say hablo, then that means something different. That means I speak in present tense. But habló is he, she, or you formal spoke. Okay, so very important that we pronounce that well. Then for nosotros, we have hablamos. Hablamos. Which is the same as the present tense. For vosotros, vosotras, we have hablasteis. Hablasteis. And for ellos, ellas, ustedes, we have hablaron. Hablaron. This one, I think the biggest challenge for most of my students is to remember when they pronounce it, that they don't say hablaron, but you say hablaron. So making sure that that A is in the middle is the strong one. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge of this one, is the pronunciation, remembering that it's pronounced hablaron, not hablaron. Okay, muy bien. So let's get to our practice exercise. So we're going to do, as usual, we're going to do one exercise together, and then I'm going to post an extra one up on the website. So if you want to get some more practice, you're welcome to do that and deepen your knowledge and deepen your understanding. And it's usually the exercise I post is a little bit more challenging than the one we do together in the video. So really help you to progress. So let's do the exercise. We're going to go to here. Aquí, ejercicio 2. So this one, we have some sentences, and we need to, and they give us the infinitive and the person, and we need to conjugate this correctly, remembering, keeping in mind the endings we just practiced. Haste, o, hamos, hasteis, haron. Okay, so you're welcome to write your responses in the comments as we go along, and I can see if you're learning these conjugations and you're starting to be able to really recall and do them quickly. So, starting with número 1. El año pasado, the verb is caminar, and as we know it's yo form, a la escuela todos los días. So last year, we're going to say I walked to school every day. Okay, so again, we have caminar is our infinitive, and yo is the person. So let's form this together. So we have, again, we're going to take the infinitive, caminar, take out the last two letters as I mentioned in the little intro, and then we're going to add back the ending that goes with yo. So if you remember from the ones we've just practiced, that's the E. The E with the accent. So it should be el año pasado, caminé a la escuela todos los días. And again, making sure we're really putting the stress on that E at the end, because otherwise we would pronounce it, if there's no accent, we would pronounce it camine. And that's not right. It should be caminé. Okay, caminé. Número 2, Sara, and then our verb is amar, aprender arte, ciencias y física en primaria. So Sarah loved to learn about art, science, and physics in elementary school. Okay, so we have the verb amar, and we know the person is Sara, which is going to be in the el, ella, usted group. So we have to take the verb amar, infinitive, take out the last two letters, and add back the ending that goes with the el, ella, usted form, which we practiced, which was o with accent. So it's going to be Sara amó aprender arte. And remember, again, pronouncing that O strongly, because otherwise it's amo. And amo means I love, but we're trying to say Sara loved. Sara amó. Okay, amo and amó. Again, hopefully you can hear that difference, and something you can really want to practice and to make sure that it sounds clear. Número 3. Nosotros, and then the verb is ayudar, a los estudiantes con las materias de la escuela. So we help the students with the school materials, the school subjects, themes. Okay, so the verb is ayudar, and we see this, the person, the subject is nosotros. So we're going to take, again, ayudar, our infinitive, cut off the last two letters, and then add back the ending that goes with nosotros, which, as we talked about, is the same in present and past. It's amos. So we get ayudamos. Nosotros ayudamos. Okay. Número 4. We have the verb bailar and tú con el alumno más inteligente y lindo de la clase en el baile de graduación el viernes pasado. So we're going to say in English, you danced with the smartest and most beautiful, most handsome student in the class at the graduation dance last Friday. A bit of a longer sentence. But again, to focus our attention on the front, we have the verb bailar and tú. Okay, so we're going to take, again, infinitive, cut off the last two letters, and add back the ending that goes with tú, which, as we practice, haste, o, amos, hacéis, aron. So we're going to use haste. Bailaste would be you danced. Bailaste. Okay, número 5. We're almost halfway there. We have ellos nos blank historia del arte en la escuela secundaria. They taught us history, art history, in secondary school or high school, or it could be middle school. Sometimes the translation of escuela secundaria, depending on the place, they can translate it sometimes as middle school and sometimes as high school. So there's a bit of variation here. And if we focus our attention on the verb enseñar, to teach, again, and we see at the start, ellos nos, so I mean, so ellos is the subject, they are the ones that did the teaching, to us. So don't let that nos throw you off. I think many students would see the nos and say, oh, okay, this is nosotros. But if you think about it, we are not doing the teaching, right? They are doing the teaching. They're teaching us. We are receiving the teaching, not doing it. So we should make this one go with ellos. Okay, so we'll have the infinitive, or the infinitive enseñar. And then we need to make it change to go with the ellos form. Okay, so we have enseñar as our infinitive. Take off the last two letters and add the ending that goes with ellos, which, as we practice, ellos, ustedes, is aron. So ellos nos enseñaron. And again, remembering that when you pronounce it, it's that A in the middle, that's where the stress goes. So it's not enseñaron, but enseñaron, making sure to stress the middle part of that verb. So ellos nos enseñaron. They taught us. Número 6. Durante todo el año, then the verb desear in the yo form, terminar el curso con buenas notas. So all last year, I wanted to end the course with good grades. So our verb is desear in the yo form. So again, we start with infinitive, desear, cut off the last two letters and add back what goes with the yo form, which we know is a. So it looks like this. I know it looks a little strange, but this is correct. Deseé. Deseé. So again, making sure that we're stressing the letter with the accent on it. Okay, número 7. Vosotros, and the verb is firmar, el examen el jueves con sus iniciales. So you signed the test on Thursday with your initials. Okay, so vosotros form. So we know the verb is firmar, starting with the infinitive. Take out the last two. Add back the ending that goes with vosotros, which we learned was hacéis. And we get firmasteis. You all, and again, this is the you all in Spain. Vosotros, firmasteis. You all signed. All right, 3 more to go. 3 más. 8. Los niños, and the verb is escuchar, al director de la escuela dar un gran discurso al fin de año. So the children listened to the school principal giving a big speech at the end of the year. So our verb is escuchar, to listen, and we know it goes with los niños, which is like saying ellos, so we should use the ellos form. So we have escuchar, our infinitive, take off the last two letters, add back the ending goes with los niños, or ellos, which is aron, and so we get all together escucharon. Again, remembering to put that stress on the A in the middle when you're saying it out loud. Escuchar. Okay, 2 más, 2 more to go. Tú, and then the verb is ganar la competición de gimnasia. So we have the verb ganar, cut off last 2 letters, and remember the ending goes with tú, it's haste, so we get ganaste. You won. You won the gymnastics competition. Tú ganaste. All right, last one, número 10. Los alumnos de cuarto grado, the verb estudiar muchísimo para el examen final. So los alumnos is our subject. The students, los alumnos de cuarto grado means the 4th grade students, studied a lot for the final exam. So again, our verb is estudiar, and we know it has to go with los alumnos, which is like saying ellos. Okay, very similar to número 8 with los niños. So we have the verb estudiar. So we take the infinitive, cut off the last 2 letters, add on the ending goes with ellos, which is aron. And then just making sure that pronunciation is nice and clear, estudiaron. Estudiaron. Again, not estudiaron with a stress on the O at the end, but estudiaron. Remember, in Spanish, we always put the stress, always with an asterisk. In general, we always put the stress on the second to last vowel in the word. So that's why we're not stressing the O at the end, because that's the last vowel. We need to go back one more vowel to the more towards the middle. Okay, muy bien. This is the little review, the repaso on the AR verbs. I will be posting another exercise on the website, so if you want to practice even more with these AR verbs, you can check that out there. And in the meantime, on Friday, we'll be focusing our attention on the ER and IR verbs to complement our review of the AR verbs. So, muchas gracias y nos veremos el viernes. Sorry, I lost my day of the week. So, thank you very much, and we'll see each other again on Friday at 12. Gracias y adiós.